I just found out this morning that my boyfriend cheated on me with his female best friend. During our relationship, the best friend, let's call her Sarah, has always been a lingering thought in my head. He always said there was nothing between them, and I believed him on the account that he constantly complained about how much of a bad friend she was. However, regardless of how much of a bad friend Sarah was, he refused to remove her from his life. There were multiple periods where they wouldn't speak. And the red flag is, whenever him and Sarah were in good terms, he always behaved differently, taking on her ideas and opinions. It bothered me, but I let it go. Around June of 2020, he decided to cut Sarah off permanently. Things with us were good for the most part, or so I thought at the time. Our relationship wasn't perfect, but I thought we were both happy. We found out we were expecting a child. Pregnancy went all right, with a few hiccups here and there. Gave birth, baby is now 5 weeks old. This whole time we never heard from Sarah, so I'm thinking she's really out of his life for sure. A couple days ago, I hear him on the phone, and the way the conversation is going, I can tell it's a female. So when he gets off the phone, I ask him who he was talking to. He says Sarah. So I'm like, wow, when did this happen? He indicated she reached out to him and apologized for her behavior and not being a good friend. I was going to let it go, but something he had said during his conversation with her kept gnawing at me. As well, I always noticed that she tried to sabotage our relationship, so I decided to go through his text messages with her. My heart and my jaw both dropped to the floor. Here is my boyfriend professing his love for Sarah and her professing the same, both indicating how they have missed each other so much. My boyfriend then goes on to say how he's in love with her and wants to be with her, how he can't wait to be intimate with her, and he loved kissing her. They apparently met up and did Lord knows what. And he also tell her he hasn't been happy with me. News to me. And now he has a child with someone he doesn't want to be with. When I confronted him, he attempted to lie until I made it clear and that I read all his texts. He then proceeded to make it seem like I'm at fault, saying that I was very difficult to deal with during the pregnancy and that he hasn't been happy with me for some time. I'm now learning after 4 years that I never really had a chance to a future with my boyfriend as long as Sarah was around. To say that my heart is broken is nothing, but my heart aches for my child even more. I thought things with us were great. We had plans to purchase a home in a year or so and is currently living together. I'm numb and at a loss for words. I don't know how I move on from this. Being a single mom was not something that ever crossed my mind. This whole situation has dropped a whole new level of stress on me. How do I avoid postpartum depression because of this? How do I co-parent amicable? How much time do I give him to move out? Update. Thank you for all your kind words and advice. So I confronted him at 12 noon. He left the apartment at around 4 p.m. He said he would be back shortly to help with the baby's night feeding. It is now 2 a.m. and he has yet to return. I'm sure he's somewhere with Sarah. Anyways, I've placed the deadbolt behind the door. I going to dry my tears, console my crying baby, and we're both going to get some much needed sleep. I wrote some days ago about having learned that my wife of 14 years and partner for 20 years and mother to my 3 children had cheated on me when our committed relationship was in its infancy. We had started dating in June 2000 and she cheated on me in January 2001. There was a guy back home, a friend of her older sisters, 3 years older, and they had sort of played cat and mouse since she was 15. Long before she met me, They lightly hooked up when she was 18, kissing, also before meeting me. But it wasn't lustful and no sex. They just cared about each other. I know all this now because my wife kept very detailed journals, and with her permission, I have now read them in the hope that it would help me forgive her. It hasn't. Our relationship was not perfect from her past perspective. I was not a fully open book due to family history of violence, alcoholism, and losing many people as a child who were supposed to love me forever. I was damaged goods. When I started dating as a teen, I only ever wanted to find marriage material. I had a serious girlfriend from age 17 to 21, and we were planning eventual marriage. I moved across the country when I was 19 for school, and I honored a long-distance relationship for 2 years. But the love did start to fade, and in June 2000, the relationship ended. It hurt a lot and gave me added reason, between that and my childhood damage, to not jump quickly into loving someone new. In no time at all, this new girl, who I'd known for 9 months, asked me on a date and really chased me. I was a slow mover. She moved urgently, asking me out, our first kiss. She was the heavy instigator. She really liked me. And I did care for her, but I know that I needed emotional space. This is my sole mistake in explaining my role in why she cheated. I didn't wear my heart on my sleeve enough, though I was coming around. We talked about it all the time, and she understood why I needed caution. We started sleeping together in no time, and we had immense chemistry. We couldn't keep our hands off each other, and her writings rave about how good sex was with me. When she flew home 6 months later for Christmas and crossed paths with his other guy, who she'd known for years, she knew that he could give her instant emotional love. Not to say that I was a robot, but let's just say I wasn't a poet, and he was. In her journal, she wrote fondly of a meetup with his guy and some mutual friends at a pub, but then the other friends didn't show up. They hit it off to no surprise. He then drove her home and she invited him in. At one point, he said he'd go crazy if he didn't kiss her, and she said, "Why don't you?" So they made out. She then took him in to a spare bedroom, and they undressed fully and got into bed. They kissed and fondled for a good hour, and also exchanged giving oral pressure. By her own writings, it was a euphoric encounter, and their legs couldn't stop shaking, and she enjoyed it in every way. There's a lot of writing about how the encounter was long overdue. She wrote nothing about being torn in the moment. She wanted it and loved it. She even wrote that she had no regrets. Some days later, after returning home to me, she wrote that she was still thinking of the other guy and knew that she had to let me go, but she couldn't because she didn't want to be lonely. It reads like she was using me for sex and company. A saving grace to this is that she told me that they did not have sex. I didn't believe her, but her journal even says that they both agreed not to. That doesn't alleviate the betrayal. It just makes it more palatable. The guy was also in an early committed relationship at the time. He's since married that woman, and they have 3 children, so they both cheated. I feel awful for that guy's wife, who still doesn't know. In addition to all this, 3 years after this cheating incident in 2003, she moved to Ireland to live with her aunt and backpack through Europe for 4 months. I fully supported the trip and her having that life experience before we had kids. She had my full unquestioning trust, as always. Her journal shows that she had eyes for other men while traveling. She really crushed on one of the guys in her backpacking group, but she showed no interest back. She wrote about him a lot and how much she missed him after their group dissolved. Midway into her trip, I got 3 weeks off, flew out and traveled with her through France and Ireland. After I flew back home, she emailed the other guy asking to stay with him in Scotland. She wrote, "If I do, I feel I might do something drastic, like maybe sleep with him, and I honestly can say that I wouldn't, because I am so attracted to him that I'd almost want to. It's awful of me, I know, but it's the way I feel." The guy never replied to her emails and nothing happened. It reads as though he had zero interest in her, and she never heard from him, but full intent towards seeking infidelity was there for her. "There's so much more," she wrote, "just pages and pages of wrong think, but no action. Pages questioning our relationship and stating outright that she didn't love me, and trying to figure out why can't I just leave him. She wanted to for years, but just couldn't. She never told me these things or raised serious concerns with me. I thought we were happy and in love. When she got back from Europe, we moved in together. A year later, we married and bought our home. A year later, first child was born, then 2 more. And she buried her betrayals. But it's all out now. I've been rapidly processing, and luckily the kids were away all week, so I had lots of space to vent. I've yelled and made the walls shake. I punched a table and I'm pretty sure my finger's broken. I've cried. She pulled me into bed on the day she confessed, and I turned it to a hate fuck session. Never done that before in my life. We've cried together. We've fallen asleep holding hands, only to wake up the next morning and all I could do was call her a selfish, immoral, lying, cheating bitch. And a whole lot of fuck yous, and she's taken it all, and she keeps taking it. We've made passionate love. We've made passionless love. We've talked and talked and talked, and now today it just feels like the storm has passed, and all that's left is the destruction. There's nothing else to say. I woke up early this morning and stared at her for half an hour while she slept. I later told her I need space, and we're not talking anymore. It crushes me knowing that this may lead to the end of my marriage.